Guys, today there's another update video on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Very, very exciting. As you can see, I've currently opened a long position that's just about to hit the take profit. Last night, there was another one that unfortunately hit the stop loss, but I took advantage of a second entry here for myself. Not only that, I'm also ready for a short position. Why? How come? I want to show you that as well. Let's take a look at the liquidation heat map. We still have quite a bit of liquidity below us in Bitcoin. At Ethereum, we really got it. All the liquidations were taken there. Then let's take a look at the trading bots. What's really interesting to see is the first trading bot I have here. It's a bit in the loss, but all the others are overall in profit. And that's exactly what I explained in my video. By the way, a huge thank you to everyone who supports me with this video. I really put a lot of effort into it. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Super exciting. I show how I create trading bots on Bitget, how you can do it too, and how I really do it with almost no risk. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and especially give this video a like. But now let's continue with the analysis. Let's take a look at my long position. Why did I open the long position here? Or rather, why did I open two? Yesterday, I also shared on Telegram that we have downside target zones for Bitcoin here, and we actually reached them and dipped into them. But for me, it wasn't clear which of these target zones would become the support. In this case, I opened a long position here. You can see that here as well. That one hit the stop loss. I set it just above the next target zone and opened a second long position here. So now on Bitunix, I've at least moved the stop loss to break even or slightly into profit. But as it looks right now, I'm going to hit my take profit target. What is my current take profit target? That is exactly this price range here. If we go into a deeper analysis, what I've marked here, because this could now be the opportunity for my new short position, I'll probably execute it that way too, because here we have the last low of this price action. And that was important for us here. If you look closely, I'll zoom in a bit and turn off the BPWR. First, you can see that we had a recovery here, which acted as support twice before we crashed down. And if you look closely, even this price area here on the left, as you can see, was the last support on the 1 hour candle before we dropped even further. That means for me, this level here is very, very interesting to watch. I will work with two entries here. That means I will make one entry in this case here, where I am now preparing myself. And the second one I will also make here, because we have this support zone here. And why is my stop loss up here in this case? Simply for the reason that we also had another area here that served several times as support and was a small valid zone for minor volume recoveries from the lower area. And for that reason, I would still take the risk here and have set my stop loss just above it. And I always work with at least a 1 to 2 risk reward ratio. That means I could lose 1.49% but take 3.31% as profit. Why 3.31? Does this key level have anything to do with it? If we look at it, this could also be a possibility for us to find temporary support here should we actually go further down. At the moment, we really don't know if it will come to that. You might have noticed Donald Trump and Elon Musk are having a massive argument here, and they're making it all public on X. And it's really about Elon Musk saying that he's going to drop a real bombshell, because Donald Trump is involved in the Epstein files, and that's also the reason why it hasn't been released. If we continue here, and he also says, bookmark this post. The truth will come out. Donald Trump is also responding to Elon Musk's posts, saying that it doesn't really bother him that Musk is now against him, and so on. But this argument, what is it really about? So we're actually talking about people who are currently in the White House, and they're basically carrying out their ongoing dispute now on X, the social media platform. This particular situation is actually not really beneficial for the entire market at the moment, as it creates a sense of uncertainty and instability. And it even says here in the detailed report whether Donald Trump should be replaced and whether JD Vance should take his place instead. Elon Musk even responded with what is really going on behind the scenes, and that's why you really have to be careful right now with what you do with your positions. This short doesn't mean that you're going to win. Maybe we'll get some good news, the two will make up, and Bitcoin and the entire crypto market will skyrocket. But at the moment, I'm actually relying on this technical analysis for myself, my personal one. Small risk for me, risk reward, that works. Here too, it's worked out well so far at this point in time. I can't lose this position anymore. If you look at all of this in terms of volume, and that's also what I posted yesterday in my Telegram group, we have this volume area here, which I've marked here. This green box here, which has been bothering me lately. Yesterday, we were still above it. Then we actually dropped below it with a single candle. Sorry, we can leave that out anyway. I've already explained that anyway. We're letting go of this short position. This one candle simply cut right through this entire volume block here to the downside. That's not so good. I also warned about that yesterday, despite the target zones we have, which we then reached. As I said, if we drop down into this area, we actually have a huge problem, or at least I see a problem in that we break through this volume order block to the downside, which previously acted as support but now serves as resistance. This means from a price action perspective, if we take a look, it's actually crystal clear. We haven't managed to make higher highs anymore. The bad thing that has happened now is simply that we have actually broken through these lows to the downside. And now it gets interesting. Will we see this area as resistance and continue to move lower? Or will we somehow manage, perhaps due to some news, market maker moves or something similar, to get back above it? Because this area here doesn't look all that promising to me right now. I have to look at the chart neutrally, even though I'm still overall bullish, but this is currently what I'm focusing on for short-term trades that I will also be entering. If we look at this with the volume profile, you can see exactly what I meant. Unfortunately, we have broken through this large local volume block to the downside, and it now acts as resistance. We first have to break back up through this volume. Until then, I don't really see this as positive. Rather, I think we could actually see lower prices. What would this look like on the daily chart if we take a closer look? There you can also see this volume block now to the downside. The next possibility would be in the price range of 100 and 1100. But in fact, I see us heading toward my key level, which you can see here, or where the first larger volume block appears again, which is around 99,550 or so. And that's something you should definitely keep an eye on. You can also see here that we've often had resistance at this level, and this resistance could now serve as support for us. If that doesn't happen, well, the price action is bearish because we've actually just made a new low here, we've closed down below, and that was actually a problem on the daily chart. Normally, what would we have needed in order to say, okay, we have this possibility of highs here, then make a higher low and then continue upward? That would have been healthy. But that's not what we've done. Instead, we've now broken through these lows to the downside. Not only with the candle close, but also the candle lows that we had, those have also been broken to the downside. And this current upward move that we're seeing right now could actually just be a liquidity grab after this downward breakout, so that we can say, okay, we shake out a few shorts and then maybe head a bit further down afterwards. Because, and you can see it very clearly here, we still have 1.28 billion lying at 100, 150 on the liquidation heat map. A bit above that, there's another 1.4 billion at 100, 250 US dollars. Then it continues with another billion and yet another billion. So this entire price range here probably still has about 10, 15, maybe even 20 billion in liquidity lying around, which is why it wouldn't surprise me if exactly what I just showed earlier with my short gets taken out to the downside all the way down to 99,500. What kind of price range would that be here if the liquidity more or less ends at 98,900? And only once that has been taken out, we'll have to see what happens next. Now let's quickly move on to Ethereum. I don't want to make this video too long, but with Ethereum, the liquidity has been taken out. I've also analyzed Ethereum on my charts. And how does it look there? How is Ethereum doing? We've broken through this price range to the downside here, this ascending trend channel, which actually held up really well. Here too, it found support one last time before heading down. We can now adjust this trend line. But with Ethereum, I actually have some positive news that I really like at the moment. If we don't include this point here, but instead use this one, then we would now have this new ascending trend, provided, of course, that we don't continue to move further down. Currently, the local support would be from this trend line. And with Ethereum, we're actually not doing anything different right now than what I explained a few videos ago when we moved up here, that it would be very, very healthy after this massive rally, and Ethereum had a more or less parabolic rise, with the RSI being completely overbought. And I said back then that it would of course be super interesting if we could consolidate a bit here, catch our breath, and then have a new breakout afterwards. And that could actually still turn out to be the case here. At this point in time, Ethereum has just picked up exactly this liquidation area here, which had been building up for over a month. That means everything has now actually been swept up. Otherwise, things are a bit empty at the moment. We can take a quick look at the last 3 days and the last day. You can see a massive amount of liquidity here, 2,700 US dollars. Those really are always magnets. But we still must not forget, these two, no matter what they do now, can of course have an extreme impact on the market. And even if we look at it again with the complete Fibonacci retracement, we also talked about this in one of the last videos. I just need to switch it over quickly. Now we have the correct Fibonacci in there. You can see that we are currently bouncing between about 0.5 and 0.382. Of course, it would be important that we don't break downwards now, because the next Fibonacci level would actually be at 0.236, but we do have new support zones below us here. On the one hand, there's this ascending trend, then this key level here that we have marked in green, but also this price area around 287 or so, which we broke through to the upside and which gave us a new high. That's why at the moment I actually see Ethereum as a bit cleaner right now. But if we also look at the volume area here, let me remove the Fibonacci, you can see that with Ethereum, we've actually broken through this volume block to the downside at this point. The next support we would encounter would be at 2,350 at this small block. Otherwise, the next one would come at 2,250, and that would be exactly in line with where we have this key level of mine, where we could find support either above or below in these price ranges. Ethereum just remains interesting. I think in general things remain exciting. How will today turn out? What about Trump and Elon Musk? To what extent will this escalate further? But be honest with yourselves, friends. Would something like this really be played out in public? Is this maybe a plan? Is this something that's going on right now? Yeah, just to stir up panic here? Whatever the case, we'll never really know for sure. But now let's move on to the trading bots to wrap things up. Okay, you can see here the last trading bot with $5,000, which has been active for 5 days, is now overall at a loss. No problem at all, that's completely fine. I explained in one of my videos, in my tutorial video, which I really recommend everyone watch, that we actually need some time here for profits to accumulate. And you can also see very clearly here that this one has been active for 17 days, even though we've just had a massive dump, including with Ethereum. What was the Ethereum dump that we had to endure just now? Let's take another quick look at it from this high. Here we collected the last take profit. From the last take profit we collected, we're now down about 10-11%. That's crazy, right? And yet we still have an overall profit here. And the longer these trading bots are active, the more profit is accumulated. And that's why a drawdown like the one we have now doesn't really matter anymore, because the overall profit simply remains, even if we have a floating loss that might not look so good at the moment. But we still have only 14 buyback orders so far. That's hardly anything. We have 50 buyback orders in total. That means the average purchase price can go down so much that I'm really not worried about it at all. Now you also know why I'm so relaxed in the spot market when I have this trading bot activated. Exactly, leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. And as always, a comment brings peace to my soul. See you next time. Bye bye.